Good afternoon to all. Welcome to the Masterclass session. My name is Amit, and I'm the Regional Senior Destination Manager at IDP Education. And today we have a special session by our guest speaker here, who's traveled all the way from Canada for this particular session. His name is Dr. Ivan Joseph, who's the Vice President of Student Affairs at Wilfrid Laurier University. Wilfrid Laurier University is a public university based out of Ontario. I'm sure Ivan will be sharing more about the university with all of you who are seated here, as well as those who are joining us through the live stream. With that, I would like to invite Ivan onto the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey folks, thanks for having me. Today I'll kind of split up into kind of two separate talks, kind of about how to find your university and some of the principles and priorities you should be looking for those of you out in the virtual world and those who are joining us here. I'm also going to talk about the skill of self-confidence and how to build your grit, your resilience. Some of you folks that were here earlier might get a little repeat of some of the stuff, but there should be a few new tidbits of information as well. So one of the things I want to remind people that as in my other life, I was a football coach. I coached soccer, both at the national team and the provincial team. I'm a high performance coach, PhD sports psychologist. So I study and work on the mental side of the game. And what's important is it's one of the most important skills. People tell me when I'm looking to recruit, when I'm trying to identify talent, what's the most important thing? And somebody will say, well, definitely it's speed. Nope, it's not speed. Well, definitely must be strength. It must be strength or soccer skill or technique. Or when I'm recruiting for the corporate world and in my job, what is it? Am I looking for somebody who has this amazing resume? And the truth of the matter is, my number one priority, my number one thing I'm looking for is the skill of self-confidence. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we talk about confidence. What is it? The genuine belief in your ability to accomplish the task at hand. Genuine belief. It's closely related to grit. And anybody ever read Angela Duckworth's book, Grit? Your ability to accomplish the task at hand despite setbacks. Think about that. Your ability to accomplish the task at hand despite setbacks. Again, so closely related. People are like, well, that sounds like optimism, right? Even though things are tough, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. Truth of the matter is, whether you call it mental toughness, hardiness, grit, resilience, hope, optimism, they're all the same thing. Meaning, how do we overcome setbacks? When we're worn out, when we're tired, how do we get to where we need to be? Well, the first thing I want to remind folks of is not something like you just float in the air like magic pixie dust and say, I got this, it's good, it's good. Repetition, repetition, repetition. The skill cannot be novel. You just can't show up someplace and say, I slept at the Holiday Inn, let me fly the airplane, right? Or no, I just woke up in the morning, I feel really good, I'm confident, I'm going to pass that test, I'm going to get the job. If you haven't done your homework, you're not going to get where you need to get to. But the thing is, the matter is that we tend to not really want to persist. Because when we try something new and novel, usually we go down, right? I met a lady today who's a polyglot, speaks 11 languages. Whoa. She's in the front row, by the way. I was like, whoa, because I know if after one language and I started to mispronounce the word, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I am not taking that language. Or this is really hard. It's not coming easy. I'm used to things coming easy because I'm a high performer. I'm quitting, I'm giving up. The truth of the matter is we don't persist. How many people in here are old enough to drive stick shift? Do dry stick shift. There's just a few of you folks, just the old veterans. Do you guys remember the first time you drove stick shift? With a clutch on a hill with a car behind you, sweating buckets, nerves. But how about now when you drive stick shift? You don't think about it. You're thinking about, oh, I got a grocery list, I got to do this errand, I got to do this errand. Oh, this is a great song. Because we don't attend to it anymore. Because the skill has become normal. Gladwell talks about it as the 10,000-hour rule. Interestingly enough, I went to a conference with Gladwell at MIT, and he said, it was never really about 10,000 hours as the automatic time. What he was doing in his research was studying music composers and said, when did they become excellent? When did they become proficient? And the range was anywhere from 7,600 hours to 11,700 hours. The thing is, it's that it doesn't happen overnight. Over and over and over and over again. When I took a national championship team guy who could not catch a ball. He was a Colombian, and he wanted to be the champion on my team, but he couldn't catch a ball. He dropped it. I didn't give him something magical to say, this is what you need to do. I said, find a ball, find a wall. Hit the ball into the wall and catch it. Hit the ball and catch it. Hit the ball and catch it. Hit the ball and catch it. Some of you folks, oh yeah, I do that for the first day, but you wouldn't be there the second day. You definitely wouldn't be there the third day, and you wouldn't be there the 60th day, the 90th day, or the 100th day. He went on to have a successful professional career, not because he was some great athlete, because he had the perseverance to stick to it. Sometimes we forget about these things. Repetition, repetition paired with persistence. Truth of the matter is, though, and as you've heard, sometimes we fail, right? Sometimes we fail. And when we have those days of failure, we're in those dark spaces because we don't feel good about ourselves. We don't think that we can do anything. We get in our own way. Why? Because we want to be perfect. A thing that happens and affects more women than men is this whole thing about perfectionism. Women feel like they have to be perfect. They have to feel like they have to have 100% of the job qualifications before applying to the job, right? True? We have to let go of being perfect. Whether you're a woman or a young emerging leader or a person just sitting here for the first time, perfect is the enemy of excellence. In the world of sports psychology, we call it maladaptive perfectionism. When we get to the point where we're afraid to put our hand up. Anybody ever sit in a classroom out there? It's like, oh my gosh, anybody know the answer? And you don't put your hand up and somebody else says the answer. It's like, dang it, I knew that. That's your maladaptive perfectionism getting in the way because you're afraid of being wrong. How do you combat maladaptive perfectionism? Let go of being perfect. When you're going here, it isn't like that. It's usually like this. Geez, okay, start again. Back here, 2 steps, 1 step, however that may be. How you choose to interpret failure, though, will really set you apart. And when you're in those spaces when you're dark and it's not good, what do? Number 1, you got to remember you got to get out of your own head. We talked about affirmations and positivity, but how does negative talk and play really happen? I need a volunteer. Anybody? Come on forward. I want you, oh look, he's young and spry, eh? Like I would be taking the stairs. Easy there, easy. He's showing me us. Like, whoa, my pants are too tight for that. I want you to share with us something you're proud of achieving, right? 30 seconds, think about it. I might need the hand, yeah, bring the mic. He's like, I'm taking the stairs. Yeah.
Well, something I'm really proud of achieving is telling my story to people and hopefully inspiring some of them through my journey. It's not been an easy one. There are lots of challenges. People see the success part of it, but they don't see what's behind the success. And yeah, for me, that's something.
Okay, tell me something successful that you did. I want to hear it, specific.
Well, I've always led teams in my earlier roles, and I've always been managing young managers. And one of the things I always tell them is, go for it, no matter how much you really have to put an effort with. And sometimes you have to think beyond your circumstances.
Okay.
And there is a vision, and there is something that's inside you that I can see, and I can showcase that thing in you. Sometimes people don't believe it in themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's something I always try to bring out.
Okay.
You have to believe in yourself.
Love it. I want you to stand like this, and with either your right hand or your left hand. Which is your strongest hand?
It's my left.
All right. All right. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think of that moment of your favorite person that you lead, or how good it feels to be a great manager. Don't let me push your hand down. Let's see how strong you are. Ready? Go. Ooh, you've been working out. Okay. Jesus. Oh, hey, easy, pipes, easy. All right. Now, I want you now to share with us the last time you screwed up. The last time you made a big mistake at work that you should have been fired and you hid it from your boss. Just us and your people in the world, right? Just like honestly, like it was a blunder and you were an idiot. I want you to just share it with us. Whoa, stop. Close your eyes. I want you to hold out your hand, and I want you to think of the last time somebody told you you weren't good. The last time somebody said, you're never going to make it. I want you to think about the last time you cried. We all do it. Close your eyes. Don't let me push your hand down. And think about the last time you failed. Got it? Go. No, don't let me push it down. Think about the last time somebody said you're never going to make it. No, hold your hand up. Don't let me push it down. The last time somebody said you can't do it. I want you, don't resist against me. Let's see it. Why can't you do it? Why are you no good? The last time you cried. Whoa, what just happened there? Were you trying to hold it up? Hold it. Don't let me push it down. Ready? What is wrong with you? Hold on a second. Does anybody know anybody? Does anybody know this man in here? Who knows him? Give me a compliment about him.
He's a great manager.
He's a great manager. Another compliment. He's a sympathetic person. One more. Always there at the right time, the right place. Anybody else? One last one. He's very knowledgeable. Repeat after me. I can do great things.
I can do great things.
Nobody outworks me.
Nobody outworks me.
I'm a great manager.
I'm a great manager.
Close your eyes. Hold out your hand. Don't let me push it down. Oh, well done. Thank you. So what was that about? Was that about strength? You heard me earlier in my talk. I said, who do you give your power away to? All of a sudden, by me criticizing a man I never met, somebody who, I'm nobody to him. Nobody. By me getting him to dwell in his past and his mistakes, he spiraled down. That wasn't about strength or muscle or myosin and actin filaments. What happened there? All of a sudden, his chemicals changed, his hormones changed, his belief in his ability. Translate that to the business world when all that negativity and toxicity happened. When we talked about the affirmations, it impacts your creativity, it impacts your ability to solve complex problems, it impacts your ability to close the deal, it impacts your belief in yourself. Those people who are negative and toxic and always coming at you. Who are those people? Sometimes it sucks that you're in your family. An ex-husband, an ex-wife, some brother, some sister, somebody you don't even know. Sometimes they're in your cubicle, or they're in your classmates. Sometimes they're in your friend group, and they're coming at you, always chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. And what happens? You start to believe and act as if. You're right, I'm no good. You're right, I can't do that. You're right, it's a bad idea. You're right, I can't do it. And before you know it, everything that you are has been sucked away. And the magic and the things that made you special, they've taken away from you. What you think you become. And that negativity, if you're not careful, with a centering exercise, a thought stopping, takes over. And so what happens when that negativity comes in? It's one thing to replace it with an affirmation, a positive statement, something that you're great at, something that you're good at. You heard him use 3. I am the captain of my ship. I use that when I'm overwhelmed. Nobody outworks me when things don't come easy. I can learn anything. But I also write a letter to myself, a self-confidence letter. Dear Ivan, congratulations on choosing the right woman to marry. You set a goal of getting a PhD before the age of 40. Bam. You got 3 kids. You launched them. You knocked them out of the park. Way to go. What is your personal brag sheet? Bring it out. When I got my first job as a director of athletics, I needed to read that sheet because I'm like, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I got it. I don't think I'm able. Imposter syndrome, yes. Read it, read it, read it. Yes, okay, I can do this. Sometimes we try and do this brag sheet when we're in our dark spots, when we failed, when we've blundered. That's the wrong time because you won't be able to think of anything. I'm no good at anything. Oh my gosh, I can't even do the confidence letter. That's when you reach out to your friends. Reach out to your friends and say, hey, what are 2 things you think I'm really good at? What are 2 things you think I can do? Can you send it to me via email? And let that begin to be the process of your confidence letter. You got 4 friends, there's 8 things. Over and over and over again. Now, you got to remember that confidence isn't something that happens like this. It's intentional. The reason I use this skill, because just like any skill, it comes with time. Practice over and over and over again. Because you're going to fail. It's how you choose to interpret that failure that sets you apart, right? How you choose. Can you explain it? Oh man, I can't believe you didn't pick me for the team. Well, they don't know how good I am. I can't believe I asked that girl out or asked that guy out and they said no. Well, they don't know really. I probably wasn't wearing the right jacket, right? Maybe I just didn't look good in that light today. Oh man, I can't believe I didn't get a best grade there. Man, I studied this. I should have studied this instead. I can't believe they didn't hire me for that job. They don't know what they're missing, right? Explain away your failure. Now, it doesn't mean that you're like, oh, make excuses. It doesn't mean you don't need to prepare. It doesn't mean you don't need to do the work. It means that you don't take it personally and let it detract you. How many times have people who are successful failed over and over again at the beginning? I was watching a Tom Brady special the other day. Anybody know who Tom Brady is? Greatest football quarterback of all time. So they say. Here's his thing. Undersized, not physically gifted, ran the slowest 40-yard dash time, not really nimble, does not possess any significant athletic skills, ordinary at best. Wow. The greatest quarterback, arguably, was average at best. How many people are like, oh God, I can't make it, right? If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, yep, you're right. The problem is confident people, gritty, resilient people, have to have a little fight in them. They have to have a little inner fire that says, I'm going to prove you wrong. If you don't, then you're just going to lie down, and you're just going to take it. And you'll let everybody else define you and say who you are. And this is an important piece. You get to decide who you are and what you're about. The problem is it's hard for us to get confident and gritty and resilient because we spend a lot of time chasing everybody else's passion but our own. We might chase our mom and dad's passion. We might chase society's passion. We might chase what we think is our passion, but really it's not. Huh? What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. I flunked out of university. I didn't tell my parents till I was 38 years old when they read it in the newspaper. How do you tell your parents who were born in Guyana, South America, gave up everything and came to Canada and started all over so that you could have a great life and start and launch your career? Thank you, Mom and Dad, but I went and I flittered it away by being irresponsible and I got kicked out of university. I think I will be, I don't know, maybe a shoe shine man. Not that there's anything wrong with that because everybody's got to work hard. But it wasn't the goal and the dream they had for me. So I hid it. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed. And I went and I decided, okay, what am I going to do? I got to start all over. So I went to a new university where nobody knew anything about me. And I'm going to prove to them that I can do this and I want to be a doctor just like they said. And I would study like a dog and titrate in the chemistry class and do the physics. And I was laboring and I was laboring and I was laboring and it was miserable. But I knew that I had to do this because I wanted to be a successful doctor, to prove to my parents that I was smart and make lots of money. Well, wasn't my passion. In fact, it was an extrinsic motivator, money and recognition. And I was sitting in an English class in Iowa, and the professor shared a story about a person who was a snowboarding, skiing bum. He would go from ski place to ski place and pretend, hey, I was skiing here, I just ordered a sandwich, and I found a hair in my burger. Oh, sorry, apologies. Would you like to ski for free? Absolutely. And he'd go to another place. Hey, I was just skiing in here, and I found a chicken bone in my drink. Oh, apologies. Sorry, we'd like to, please, ski for free. Yes. From place to place to place, until one time, he went someplace. It's like, hey, I recognize you. This guy owned 2 resorts. You weasel. You got to go see the owner. And the owner was like, oh my God, this guy's like, he's going to throw me in jail. What am I going to do? What's your name? It's Bob. I'm making it up. I don't know what it was. He goes, hey, I like what you're doing. Huh? I would like you to be our secret shopper. What? Yeah, I want to see how our people treat you. Really? Yeah. You want me to ski for free and pretend to rip you off? Yes. So he did. And he'd ski, and then he'd ski, and he'd pretend, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, you know what, Fred? I think these moguls here, if you move them this way and this way, they could be a little bit better. okay, yeah, this is the best job ever. I get paid to sleep in and ski. Hey, Fred, this ski line here, it's a 2-person lift. If you made it a 4-person lift, you'd get way more people. Hey, this line stop. All of a sudden, he started making all these decisions to improve. And before long, he'd worked his way up from ski clerk to ski head to ski manager to leading the resort. He became the CEO in less than 15 years. Why? Because he never worked a day in his life. Something he was doing for free and loved to do. That's where grit comes. You can't have grit in medicine for me because I hated medicine. I didn't want it. I wanted to quit every time I could. I remember hearing this. I'm like, what? What do you volunteer to do? You know what I volunteered to do every summer? I coached with my dad. I volunteered in the fall. I worked hours. I wanted to be a soccer coach before I even knew it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a soccer coach. Well, good luck telling your Indian parents that. What? Anthony, are you crazy? Bye. Get to school. Oh, my God. But that's what I decided to be. I remember my salary, 1997, was $3,500. The people who I was coaching on the team's scholarship was 3 times bigger than my pay. But I won the conference championship that year. Whoa, I had a talent. This wasn't work for me. The next year, we won again. The next year, we won again. Before I knew it, boom, I was a national champion. Before I knew it, somebody called me and said, would you like to be an assistant on the Olympics? Yes, I'll carry the equipment. Yes, I'll shine shoes. Hey, would you like to then become the video analyst? Hey, would you like to be on the national team? Before you knew it, I was coaching at the World Cup qualifiers, the Gold Cup. Before you knew it, I was studying every single thing I could about soccer. I did become a doctor, but not a medical doctor, a PhD in sports psychology. Why? Because it helped me become a better coach. Every nook, every cranny I looked into because I wanted to be exceptional. When you find your passion, it ain't work. What are the things you're doing in your spare time? What are the things you daydream about? Those are the things that build your grit and resilience because then you've discovered your joy. And so many times we chase the money and the dollars. I ended up making way more money than being a medical doctor by being a soccer coach. Not because I was chasing it, but because I was committed to the process of being excellent. Grit and resilience doesn't happen by accident. But you also have a responsibility to build it in others, right? I talked about the confidence letter. I talked about finding your passion. This responsibility to build it in others, what does it look like? How many people here are parents, right? There's a lot. We have a habit of, as parents, at least I do, of saying, yes, we want to build grit and resilience and confidence in our kids. Yes, of course, that's important. And then we put our kids in class, in swimming lessons, in taekwondo, or in track and field, and they're not playing, and so what do? They're not really good. They're not playing. You got to come out of here. This coach isn't good. Let's go someplace else where you can be the star. What have we just said? If you don't have immediate success, Johnny, this is something wrong. Let's go. We don't allow people to suffer. We want our kids. They need to suffer. They need to know what it's like to be last and what it's like to work hard and what it's like to dig down and really, really feel it and get the immediate gratification that comes from their work and seeing the difference and the change. And I can't blame you folks because I was like that. In my house, there's a hockey helmet, there's a horse helmet, there's a ski boots, there's skating boots, there's a tennis racket, there's a ping pong racket, there's a lacrosse stick, there's a judo kit, all these things. Because my son, God bless him, was so uncoordinated. He needed to find something because his sisters could do something like that. So I just kept finding us. And my daughter said, Dad, stop moving him from game to game and sport to sport. He's got to learn to work hard to achieve success. She was 11 years old. I was the doctor. And she was right. Praising the outcome, which is trying to get immediate success, does not build the grit and the confidence in us. And so if you're out there in the virtual world out here, as a parent, I want you to think about that. Praising the outcome versus praising the process. Today I spoke with a principal at a school and he talked about it. He had 2 kids. One kid really good in math, one kid not so good. And the kid in math got 99%, and he didn't say anything to him. But the kid that wasn't good in math got 80%, and he said, yes, girl, well done. Let's go to the mall and get a gift. He's like, what the heck? And the reason is because the 99% did that with the night before. The night before you got 99%, that wasn't your best work. And she worked like a dog for weeks to get 80%. This is the process. Because what happens if we praise the outcome, soon as that kid gets somewhere and success isn't immediate, they want to give up. They want to quit because they're used to only being perfect. This is for you out there now if you're not a parent and you're a student. Are you willing to persevere through the hardship, to do a little suffering so that your reward can come? This is how you build it in others. How else do you build it in others? As teachers, as educators, as coaches, we fix mistakes. And when we fix mistakes, improvement happens, right? That's what we do. Hey, you know what? This isn't the way I wanted this paper. These are the mistakes. This isn't what I was looking for. Hey, folks in the corporate world, you know what? This isn't the briefing note I want. It didn't meet the lines. I can't find a clear thesis statement in the essay, whatever it is. That's what we do. In the coaching world, you didn't lock your ankle, you didn't point your toe, your head isn't over the ball flew over the air. This is what we do. And when we fix these mistakes, this is what happens, right? We get better. But there's a famous psychologist called Colleen Hacker that said, ignore the mistakes, catch them when they're good, a book she wrote. When we catch them when they're good, when we focus on the positives, what happens? Zoom. Improvement happens like this. And instead of me making somebody feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my gosh, she's so good. People shut down. Anybody ever tried to get been corrected here in public? It makes you feel terrible. Your head goes down, your shoulders bow. I'm no good. I can't do it. I don't want to be here. And what happens? You quit. You're ashamed. You're embarrassed. But if we ignored the mistakes and instead focused on the positives, hey, great job on the rebound today. I love the way your butt was out, your arms were up, you're able to grab it. Okay, those are the coaching points. Butt out, arms out, grab it. Yeah, this person over here is paying attention. Hey, in the corporate world, I thank you for being on time, folks. It allows us all to get started. I really appreciate it. Hey, folks, this is the way I want this to look like. Laurier in the top left, this is the way this PowerPoint should look. Hey, folks, here's a great briefing note. We find that improvement happens when we praise the outcome. So what happens? What's the theory behind that? Bandura's social learning theory. Ignoring the mistakes allows people to still pay attention, learn the social cues, and correct the behavior. It looks like this as a parent, for those of you who are out there. I'm down in my kitchen the other day, and I say, oh gosh, there, children, gather around. I have an announcement to make. This is my foghorn leghorn chicken imitation, a cartoon guy in Canada. I do declare a miracle has happened here in my kitchen today. I came down, and someone has put their dish from the sofa in the dishwasher. What has happened? Praise Jesus. And my kids are like, oh, Dad. Me praising them up, because usually 9 times out of 10, I'm fixing a dish or a sink or something out of the sofa. Because that's where my kids like to eat, and then it disappears from their head. And I got tired of nagging them. And when I say, yeah, they walk away. It's like, oh, I love it. Dad's so funny. My wife actually caught me the other day. She's like, oh, my God. I hear him look out. Like, I come up. I look out. What's going on? She goes, a fairy came and took the wet towel from the bed and hung it up. Oh, my God. I'm like, wife. But what happens? Instead of us coming at us like this and this and this and this, I feel good. I feel better. And then I want to get that praise again. I'm like, yeah, I feel good about that. I like that. Praising the process, catching them when they're good. Last thing I'll leave you about is that this connection between our expectations, how we interact with each other, how we treat each other in terms of raising performance. We call it the Pygmalion effect, right? It's going back from this horse named Clever Hans in Germany. Clever Hans was this horse in Germany that could count, could add, could subtract, could read, right? Clever Hans, what's 1 + 1? And the horse would neigh, boom, boom. Clever Hans, what's 3 - 2? And the horse would like, neigh. Well, somebody said, hey, Maxwell von something something, we think something's going on here, but researchers heard about this and said, let's bring this in and see what happens. Let's come and take a look. And so they flew in, literally from around the world. And they said, Maxwell, out of here, we're studying the horse. Clever Hans, where's the letter A? And researchers would be holding up different letters, and the horse would kind of by and look, and then just start right here. Get out of here. Clever Hans, what's 1 + 1? Wow. The only time Clever Hans didn't know the answer, if the horse was wearing blinders, if Clever Hans was standing behind, or if somebody was standing behind Clever Hans, or if the person asking the question, they didn't know the answer. What's inverted Pythagorean theory of 3 minus 0.14 divided by 6? You probably know the answer, but no, everybody else, like, no. What? What was happening here? Was Clever Hans really some genius? No. What was happening was, as we reacted to Clever Hans getting the right answer or approaching the right answer, the horse knew to stop. Get out! Whoa, geez, can you believe that? And it wasn't these amazing big gestures. It was the change of the eyebrow, the flare of the nostril, the sudden change, the perspiration on the lip. The horse could pick this up. In the world of sport, we call this the Pygmalion effect, meaning people rise to your minimum level of expectations. We were telling the horse how to behave. The theme comes from, if anybody's read My Fair Lady, George Bernard Shaw play about Eliza Doolittle, right? Soon as she put on a Queen Victorian and had a little, different accent and drank with her pinky cup, they started treating her differently, right? A lady with a Cockerel accent. If you haven't read My Fair Lady, but you're more modern and hip and cool like me, the same thing could be said about Eddie Murphy, Trading Places, right? Same movie, right? Like, I haven't seen either of them, but anyway. So what is this about? I remember reading this, and I'm like, whoa. People rise to your minimum level of expectations? And I was studying my PhD, and I was coaching my team. I was like, let's see how this applies to soccer. I was the conference champion, but I didn't want to be the coach of the year of 10 teams. I wanted to be nationally ranked. I couldn't get to the national tournament. And we had 2 miles time, which is 8 laps around a soccer field. And everybody had to do it in 12 minutes. I would have 1 or 2 guys at 10:05, and everybody else was 11:57, 11:58, 11:59. I'm like, let's see if we can do this. I decided to make the time 11 minutes and 30 seconds. What thinks happens? Everybody's like, what the heck? But sure enough, 11:26, 11:27, 11:28, 11:29. Whoa. And we started getting better. I made the next year 11 minutes. And sure enough, 1 or 2 guys, 10:05, 10:06, everybody else, 10:57, 10:58, 10:59. Whoa, I'm onto something. The next year I made it 10:30. Everybody's like, that's impossible, coach. We can't do that. We don't know. Sure enough, 10:27, 10:28, 10:29. And we started rising in the ranks from being 25th to being 10 to being number 1. Incrementally, we made these changes. I remember applying it to the academic performance. Because when you're coaching soccer and you're coaching 18 and 19-year-old boys, I was one of them, they got the maturity of a gnat. So they're happy with the minimum GPA threshold to be playing, 50%, 2.0. And the time they get seniors, they want to go to grad school, they have this giant hole. So I'm like, you know what, I'm not doing them any service here. I'm going to make the qualifications to play for me 2.25, even though the NCAA says it's 2.0. What do I see? Everybody complains, but sure enough, 2.26, 2.27. I'm like, whoa. The next year I made it 2.5. What do I see? 2.51, 2.52, 2. Next year, 2.75. And sure enough, 2.76, 77, 78. By me raising the expectations, people rose to the minimum level. Jacobson and Rosenthal, 2 Harvard students, researchers, read about this and decided to apply it to the classroom. They said, okay, let's develop a late blooming acquisition test, and we're going to give it to students. We're going to see how they do. And so they gave it to students. Late blooming acquisition test. They came to a school, I think it was in the Bronx. And when they administered it, they said, hey, we get this. This group right there, those 3 in the back that look like they're sleeping, that look like they're not even smart enough, they're going to be the ones that the late bloomers. What do you mean? Those 3 know. That group has tattoos. They smoke cigarettes. They wear leather jackets. They're my dumbest group. That can't happen. Well, that's what the late blooming acquisition test says. We'll come back in 6 months and see what happens. And they come back in, and as they're walking in, the teachers are, oh my God, Jacobson and Rosenthal, they come with their late blooming test. Guess what? Your late blooming acquisition test was amazing. Those 3 in the back there, oh my God, they're geniuses. They had the biggest academic lift. They were amazing. I can't believe it. But guess what? There was no late blooming acquisition test. Jacobson and Rosenthal made it up. They made it up to see what would happen if we had higher expectations. When those teachers had higher expectations of that group, they didn't take the dog ate my homework. Nope, I don't. You better get that to me. They didn't take avoid eye contact. Anybody? Nope. Head down. I'm coming back. They didn't take a good enough answer. This is not good enough. You can do better. They pushed them. They cajoled them. They prodded them. And they responded. And as soon as those teachers started to believe that they were able to do more, they started delivering. What was this about? Boom. But here's the truth of the matter. Who sets it up? Who sets that minimum expectation? Why did it take Jacobson and Rosenthal to those teachers? How many times have you risen to somebody else's expectations? Yes, I've made it. That only says you're good enough. That says you've met the bare minimum. You haven't done anything to set yourself apart. You build your confidence and your grit and your resilience by exceeding the expectations that somebody else has put, because that's somebody else's imposed limitations on you. Set your own benchmark for excellence. That's how you build your confidence, your grit, your resilience. Now, I'm going to say one thing that I said earlier today. Nobody does anything alone. Nobody does anything alone. And so you got to have your people, right? Optimism and hope is built by dopamine, the juice that makes you happy. And so if you don't have your people, your tribe, your community, then when you're worn out, when you don't think you're good enough, you need somebody. Not your Facebook friend, not your Instagram like, not your acquaintance, that person who has your back, no matter what, right? The person who's seen you ugly cry, the person who sometimes tells you things you don't want to hear, there's sometimes the person you fight with, like the cats and dogs, but you know they love you unconditionally. Those kind of people build your resilience. Savoring, reflecting on the things that bring happiness and joy. Because sometimes we just focus on the things that are always wrong, what's broken, what's not good. Savoring builds that grit and resilience. Hobbies that create flow, put you in the zone, that make time fly. And thanking somebody that helped you, right? We talked about that earlier today. Those things build those juices. They make you feel invincible. Last and certainly not least is I want to remind folks how leaderful you are, and you are in charge of your own life and destiny. Sometimes people forget this. I don't have the captain's title. I don't have the bosses. I don't have the designation. And I want to remind people that a great team, a great organization is leaderful. And whether you choose to lead from the front, the middle, or the back, it's always there. Be like, what does that mean? I say, every time I do a study, I should have done it in this group, but it's too late because I've started now, but I'll tell you what I do. I get people to walk around. I say, hey, I've picked one of you folks in here to respond to a secret signal that I'm going to do. Get up and walk around, and everybody just watch me. And when you get the right signal, whatever that may be, I want my secret person to stop. And when they stop, everybody else will stop. Okay, let's see how good a team we are. And so they mingle, and they walk around, they're looking, and I'm doing all my signals. And then I do the one, and the person stops, and they all stop. Usually like a minute and a half the first time. I'm like, oh, not bad, folks. But, you know, I talk about higher expectations. I think we can do it better. Yeah. And so they walk around, let's try again, and they do it. And I'm doing the signal, and I do the secret signal, whatever it might be. And somebody stops, and it's like, okay, 45 seconds, way better, excellent. They're like, one more time, coach, what's the record? I say, 23 seconds, okay. They walk around, they're looking at each other, they're walking around, they're looking at each other. I do the secret signal. 17 seconds, oh my God, yeah. And they high five each other, and they're feeling all good, and they sit down, and they're like, yeah. Okay, coach, who was it? Who was the secret person? And I say, okay, will the secret person please stand up? And guess what? I've never, ever picked a secret person. One day I'm so afraid it's not going to work, but it always works. Why? I don't ever pick a person because I want to remind folks that you don't need a title to stop an organization in its tracks, to change its directions, to move it anywhere you want. Sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, we don't have it. That's about your own confidence. That's about your inability or your unwillingness to have your voice heard. That's about your inability to press when you have a thought, an idea, or you feel really convicted. You're quick to follow nobody, but unwilling to be somebody. This is the key when thinking about confidence, grit, and resilience. At the end of the day, though, here's the deal. These are all things that you are 100% control of. But they're intentional, small acts. Take one nugget. You don't have to be 100% positive Sally and say, oh my God, coach told me never to be critical, never to be negative, never to be toxic. No, move the needle, 10%, 10%. You don't have to talk about it all the time, but the next time you try and hear yourself, I got this, right? The next time you see somebody beat themselves down, say, hey, live in the moment. That's okay, you got the next one. Take one little nugget, but be intentional. Be intentional. Again, genuine belief in yourself doesn't happen by accident. It comes through repetition, daily affirmations, positive self-talk, setting high expectations. Because at the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, who will? Thanks for having me, folks. Oh, you don't need, I'll take it. Thank you kindly. You know, have a seat, that's great. I feel so, thank you for having me. I love Dubai, and so I feel so good here. I wanted to share with you just a few thoughts. I know we've got some folks on the other side, and so I'm going to talk about university. So folks want to head out, I won't be offended. I just wanted to talk about university in general, especially for the folks who are trying to think about what to do and where to go. And I'm not going to speak so much about my university, although I love Laurier. I was an international student myself, right? I oversaw international students. In fact, I recruited international students. So I want to give you a few thoughts to think about in your journey about the process. You know, sometimes I see we're all caught up in wanting to go to the U15 schools or the Ivy League schools or the very best school. And I'll say this, you know, we've got some programs that are exceptional and some that are average. I want to remind folks that you got to think about the right fit for you. What does that look like? I went to a school that had only 1,500 students in the middle of Iowa. No stop signs, actually no stop lights, no Walmart, no McDonald's, no bar. The guys slept in that dorm, the women slept in that dorm. But I loved it. It was my university where I got to be in a play, where I got to play in the orchestra, where I got to be the captain of the soccer team and be on the track and field team. It was important for me to be involved, to be in a class that only had 14 students to 20 students, because I flunked out when I was a number, 890, 108, 860. But at this small university, I was Ivan. Didn't see you in class today. Dang it, because you ate with your professors in the commons. You couldn't skip because you knew they were going to see you. Who are you and what's your fit? Sometimes we get caught up in wanting to be at the most prestigious school, which is fine and great, but we're not thinking about fit. If you're a person who shines because you're involved, because you need something to do, you want to be connected, then find the right school. If you're a person that says, I need to go to a prestigious school because I need this kind of research or I need this kind of program, then make that choice. Because no matter what the school is, you've got to find a community to belong to. You've got to be engaged, and sometimes we forget about that. Success in the classroom is only half of it. The skills you learn outside are what set you apart. When I came from that little school of 1,200, you know what? I was the floor monitor. I was the hall president. I learned how to build a logo. I learned how to lead a team. I learned how to change a culture. Fast forward 15 years, I became the highest paid director of athletics in Canada. Guess what my first thing was? We're going to rebrand the logo. We haven't had a winning record. We're going to change the culture. Guess who the people were I hired? The people who slept on my sofa, the people who were in my class from all over the world. These things are really important. What's the academic reputation of that institution in getting students to graduate school, if that's your goal? Can you tell us where you sent people? Can I do research from year one? If you're going to a grad school, how many grad students are actually doing the research versus just sitting there watching you do the research? Do you have access to all the tools that I need? What's your placement rate at law school or wherever it may be? We don't ask these questions. And when we do ask the questions, like I was telling people let's say you want to play a sport, don't go ask the high performers, the ones that get all the time. Of course they have a great experience. If you're going to go play on the soccer team and somebody comes to me and asks my captain, hey, how great was it to play for Coach Joseph? Oh, we love Coach Joseph. Of course they do. They get to play. They get all the perks. Ask the player down here, hey, you never play. What's it like to play for Coach Joseph? And if it sucks, if it's a terrible experience, because the experience for the person at the bottom should be as great as the person at the top. It's going to be different, but it should be as great. We forget about that. When you're thinking about it, are you a person that wants to come home on the weekend? Are you the person that needs an urban campus? If you go to Iowa and you're the only black dude, the only brown dude, oh, that's going to be a tough one for you. Is that really where you want to be? Or do you need to be in an urban center? Do you want guaranteed residence because you don't want to cook and you want to live on campus for 4 years? We don't think about those questions. We focus only on, is it the medicine program? Is it just this? Is it just that? But my gosh, 75% of your day is spent outside of the classroom, building relationships, building connections. How many graduate students do they have? How many international students do they have? Do they have a thriving international club? What's the international club director like? Because that's going to be my primary contact. How do they handle things? Those are the things you need to know. When I went through international students, I'm telling you, it's lonely. For those of you who want to go away from home, anybody been an international student away from home here besides me? It's kind of lonely sometimes, eh? Especially that first month when you're sitting there, okay, I'm going to go to Walmart, I'm going to buy a pillow, I'm going to buy a blanket, and maybe an alarm clock. And you're sitting there, right? Because you sound different. You eat different foods. Yeah, people aren't really just going to come right at the door for you. You got to go out there, right? And it's hard sometimes because sometimes we're introverts. Not me, but maybe Ahmet, right? And so you've got to make sure who's your one person. You don't need 15 or 20 friends, but you need one person. But how will you find that one person? It's not by being attached to your keyboard and calling home every night. It's by opening the door and inviting people in or finding a club or an organization to belong to. Last and certainly not least about an international student is you've got to make sure you use the systems, the health and wellness system, the intramural system, the student academic support systems. On your day one, you should be finding out where's the international support center, all right? Where's the health and wellness? Where's the academic supports? Where's the writing tutoring center? If you're waiting till you need those in October, what happens is, gosh, folks have booked those meetings 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And now you're not going to get a meeting till November, December, but you most likely need it because you got your paper due tomorrow. At least that's how I worked. Find out those resources right away. Every university has what we'll call their marquee program, right? At Laurier, our marquee program is probably our business program or our computer science. At Waterloo, it's their engineering program. At U of T, well, they got about 10 programs that are marquee, right? At UBC, they've got this program. Like, what's the marquee program? But it's not enough to know the marquee program. If the marquee program, I'm making it up, at Gonzaga University has classes sizes of 2,500 for freshmen, is that where you'll thrive? Know yourself, right? With a clear vision. Are you choosing that academic major because it's what you want or because it's what your parents want? And I know this is a tough one because I get it, right? It's not easy. It's not easy. But you've got to figure a way to have those conversations in a way that's meaningful, in a way that might allow you to at least sneak some electives in. That's the reality of it. I like to say, no, you just tell them. We know in the Indian world it doesn't work like that, right? At least in my house, right? But can you get maybe some electives in there to just get a taste of your passion? It's worth the conversation. Last and certainly not least about university. Figure out what you want out of that experience. Those 4 years will go like this, but they need to most likely prepare you for graduate school. Because the world that we live in, the university undergrad degree is very, very common. And for most folks, that next level, that's where the real differentiation needs to happen. That's where that connection between your researcher, that academic place, the space you want to shine and thrive in, that's where you need to be thinking about it. But you can't start thinking about that in your senior year. You need to start thinking about that in your second year. Okay, who are the researchers that they're taking? Let me see who's on their lab. Let's get on the website and take a look. They've got these people with this discipline. Oh, I've noticed this person did this kind of work. I better start building my resume for that now. I sit on a thing called a McCall-McBain Scholarship. Anybody ever heard of it? I sit on the advisory panel that selects them. And finally, it just went to international students. Full tuition, full freight, room and board, plus a living stipend. A guy gave $50 million to McGill University for the scholarship, and I'm on the selection committee. You know what the number one thing we look at? Not your volunteer hours, not your leadership hours, not your academic average, but how long you've been committed to those things. We know people that just do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. What we're looking for is somebody who's been in something as a grade 9 student, and then they earn their way up into grade 10 into another leadership position, and then into grade 11 into another, and by the time they became a president. Because we want people who don't do things for the scholarship or for the looks, but because they were genuinely interested and committed to it. That makes a difference. You know what else we look for? People who have failed at something and responded appropriately. We're not looking for perfect people. People who have failed and had a setback and said, this is how I overcame it. Not perfection. Well, I've talked too long. I'll be around if you have any questions. I wish you the best. Those of you in the virtual world, you can find me at, I think on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I wish you all the best in your academic pursuit and in building your confidence, grit, and resilience. Take care, folks. Thanks for having me. Any questions? Is that what you're looking for? No? No. Yeah.